Life is filled with strange occurrences. Events take place and it seems so bizarre it makes you wonder if it was just a coincidence or something else was at play. Welcome to NovyBriefs. Today we are counting down our top 5 picks of craziest coincidences in history. These events may seem so strange and too eerie to be true. From a man predicting his own death, to bullets getting to their targets decades later, to a woman jumping 2 stories and landing on her soon-to-be ex-husband, these are the top 5 craziest coincidences in history. Number 5. Mark Twain. What may happen in the future is simply unknown and uncertain. People closer to their inner spirituality have dreams of upcoming events, but this can be driven by our subconsciousness. Life is just too unpredictable to predict one's own death. But not for Samuel Clemens, popularly known by his pen name as Mark Twain. Twain is known in history as the father of American literature, based on his numerous novels that reached global attention. He was an apprentice with a printer, and after failing as a gold miner, he turned to journalism. While a reporter, he wrote a humorous story, The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County, which became popular and brought him nationwide attention. Twain had found his calling. There is not much to say about Twain that hasn't already been said to date, as his writing skills is still unmatched. He also seemed to be amongst the few people who successfully predicted their own death. Twain was born in 1835, the same year the Halley's Comet passed the Earth at a very close distance. In 1909, he declared he would die the next time Halley's Comet passed the Earth. It is said that the Halley's Comet passed the Earth every 76 years. On the 29th of April 1910, the comet once again passed the Earth, and Twain died 2 days after due to a heart attack. Number 4. The 20-year-old bullet. Some relationships end on a sour note, but they rarely result in the death of anyone, let alone 3 people. But in 1883, in the town of Honey Grove, Texas, Henry Ziegland was a farmer who lived with his fiancée, Mercy Tegner. Henry broke up with his fiancée, which caused her to become depressed. She took her own life, and as a result, Macy's brother blamed Henry for his sister's death. Her brother hunted Henry down at his farm and shot him before turning the gun on himself. What Macy's brother did not know was Henry survived, as the bullets just grazed the side of his face and hit the tree behind him. 20 years later, Henry and his son decided to cut down the tree and use it as firewood. They tried to cut down the tree with an axe, but the wood was too tough. It was almost impossible to split it with an axe. They bored some small holes in the fallen tree and put some amount of dynamite in the holes. Ziegland and his son ran 50 feet away and set the explosion off. The same bullet lodged in the tree 2 decades prior was blown out of the tree from the explosion with such great force and hit Henry in the left temple, killing him instantly. The bullets waited 20 years for Henry Ziegland, and it's finished the job. Number 3. A tale of unintentional revenge. What goes around sure comes around, and karma can definitely be your worst nightmare. In 1978, Vera Chermak of Prague contemplated both suicide and murder after learning that her husband was cheating on her. She chose suicide and jumped out of her 3rd-story balcony, landing on her husband who was standing in the streets below. Cushioned by her husband, she survived, but her husband died. Number 2. The wreck of the Titan and the Titanic. A fortune teller might remind you that the future is not set in stone, but 14 years before the faithful maiden voyage of the Titanic sank, a small-town writer foretold the whole thing. Well, he set the future on paper. In 1898, Morgan Robertson published a novel known as The Wreck of the Titan or Futility. If not for the release date, you would believe the novel is an exact retelling of the Titanic tragedy. Things got stranger when the similarities between the Titan and the Titanic went far beyond a name and an iceberg. Both ships were approximately 800 feet long. The Titan was 800 feet and the Titanic was 882 feet. Both ships were considered unsinkable. The speed at which the Titan cruised into the iceberg was 25 knots. The Titanic was 22.5 knots. The Titan held 2,500 passengers. The Titanic held 2,200, and both had a capacity of 3,000. Both ships were British-owned. Both hit an iceberg around midnight in the month of April, approximately 400 miles from Newfoundland. Both lacked sufficient lifeboats. The Titan had 24 and the Titanic carried just 20. The hit resulted in the death of over 200 people for both ships, which is horrendous for the real-life Titanic. Before we get to our number one pick, let's take a look at these 3 bonus coincidental events. Number 1. Miss Unsinkable. Speaking of sinking ships, Miss Violet Jessop had great experience when it came to it. Popularly known as Miss Unsinkable, she survived 3 of the most significant shipwrecks of the 20th century. It's either she is an ill omen of disaster and carried it wherever she went, or the luckiest woman on earth who escaped death thrice. Born in 1887 in Argentina to Irish immigrant parents, Violet's amazing capacity of survival began at a very young age. She lost 6 of her 8 siblings in early childhood and suffered from tuberculosis. She was said to have just months to live, but beat the disease against all odds. Her father also died when she was 15. Her 2 younger sisters and her mother moved to England for work, and her mother found a job at sea as a stewardess. When Violet turned 21, she decided to follow in her mother's footsteps and also become a stewardess. In 1910, she commenced work on the RMS Olympic, owned by the White Star Line Company. This was a luxury ship and the largest civilian liner in the world at the time. It held that record until the construction of the Titanic 2 years later. On September 20th, 1911, the Olympic was on its 5th journey when it crashed with a British warship, the HMS Hulk. Thankfully, there were no fatalities and Miss Violet had to find a new ship. She was assigned to another ship in the company's fleet, the RMS Titanic. She was reluctant at first to work on the Titanic, but her friends convinced her and made her believe it would be a fantastic experience. Well, the fate of the Titanic is well known. On April 14, 1912, en route from England to the USA, it struck an iceberg and sank in the sea. Violet was initially asleep when the Titanic struck the iceberg. She woke up and managed to get on one of the lifeboats. 8 hours later, she was rescued by a ship called the Carpathia. This was Violet's second near-death experience at sea. Lots of people will stay away from the seas after being nearly killed by it twice. But somehow, she was determined to continue her life as a stewardess. During World War I, she was employed as a Red Cross stewardess on the HMS Titanic. This ship was also owned by the same company and was part of the same fleet as the Olympic and the Titanic. The Titanic was deemed to be safer than both of the previous ships, with design improvements made after the Titanic sank. What they did not know, however, was Violet was on the ship. The vessel was to be used as a hospital ship during the war to transport injured soldiers to the UK. On November 21st, 1916, you guessed it, the Titanic hit a German mine and began to sink. While in the Aegean Sea, Violet survived, but unfortunately, 30 of the ship's passengers did not. The only thing Violet's experience with surviving shipwrecks taught her was to retrieve her toothbrush before jumping into the water. Having forgotten her toothbrush in the panic of the Titanic, at least she would have clean teeth this time after surviving yet another shipwreck. Violet continued to work on large ships until she retired at the age of 63. There were no further incidents during the rest of her career. Thank God. Violet Constance Jessop died at the age of 84 and may be the only person in history to survive 3 significant shipwrecks. These stories are crazy, right? Please let us know your thoughts down in the comment section. Do you think these events are just coincidences or it's something else? What are some of the craziest coincidences you know of? Or was there ever a time you found yourself in a coincidental event? For more amazing videos like this, please become a part of the family by subscribing. Don't forget to like this video and kindly check out this video about the soldier who refused to fight on the battlefield of World War II. We will be right here waiting for you in our other videos. So please, do take care of yourselves and each other. Goodbye.